This video features our rules for scoring on the run, as well as practice footage from a high school group earlier this fall, and some D1 college footage for comparison. Okay, so first things first, we have some mental rules. When you're shooting on the run, we want you to shoot overhand. The margin for error when you shoot sidearm on the run is so small, it's not worth the risk. When we shoot overhand, we give ourselves a chance to miss our release point and still get the ball on the net. When we miss our release point sidearm, it's either going wide to the left or wide to the right. Next is having the confidence to shoot the ball as hard as you can when you're shooting on the run, and it should be a violent action. If someone should get in the way of your follow through without having equipment on, it should cause them some significant bodily harm. You'll see in some of the shots that we take during the high school practice session that the follow through is not there, and that typically comes from a lack of confidence in shooting the ball in general, as well as shooting the ball on the run. We don't want to shoot just to get it on the net. We want to shoot to score. That confidence comes from practice. And then finally, have a plan. When you're shooting on the run or even stationary, we typically want to move the ball away from where the goalie is. That's low and away or off hip. But if the goalie's been dropping low all game, and we've seen that earlier, we need to shoot higher later in the second half. If the goalie has struggled on a bounce shot, shoot a bounce shot, but have an idea, be intentional with what you're trying to accomplish. Don't just wing it. Okay, now our mechanical and technical rules. Once again, when you're on the run, you shoot overhand every time. It's a non-negotiable. The things that we need to do to generate that violent action so we are shooting as hard as possible are the following. One is to bite your front shoulder. That means if you're getting your hands back far enough and you're getting your core and back torqued up far enough, you'll have your front shoulder kind of in your mouth. And then as we follow through, again, to generate that violent action, we get our hands from all the way back to all the way forward, and we finish them in our front pocket. Tennis sounds is something that we like to kind of joke around about in terms of when you're watching a tennis match and you hear them return a serve, they make a sound, there's a grunt. If you grunt when you shoot, chances are you're probably shooting as hard as you can. And lastly, we cannot shoot as hard as possible unless we're running as fast as we possibly can run. Running as fast as possible comes from having the confidence that you are able to carry the ball in your stick at full speed. That's stick skills, and then you're repping that out at full speed in practice, not just going 75% so you can focus on the shot. We want to get comfortable being able to shoot as hard as possible in a drill scenario, in a training environment, so then we can translate that to the field during a game setting. Okay, I'm just going to let a couple of these go here before we start to break them down individually. Obviously not everyone is captured, but you can still get a mental rep by watching others play. This drill does two things for us. Number one, it convinces our shooters to shoot overhand. If they're shooting sidearm, there's a chance that you might follow through and hit one of those two nets. As we get better at shooting, those two nets will kind of become narrower. The other thing those nets allow us to do is to remind the shooters that they need to get back downhill. So we're starting off with a sweep, moving east and west, and then we want them to get back downhill through the kind of cage tunnel there. Now the bad news is shooting on the run is the hardest skill in the game because it is so physically taxing to practice, and then the actual skill itself has so many moving pieces that so many things can go wrong. They have to be right. The good news is if we start to make some simple changes right away, we can improve incrementally over time. Now again, we didn't capture everyone in this video, but you'll be able to get some mental reps here. If it's not necessarily that you are the one that's shooting, that's an example of someone that's fading a little bit away. We'd like to get him back downhill. Here is someone who's not a natural lefty that we don't get that full follow through. You can see he's just kind of willing to get it on the net. Here's a right-handed player that's going a little bit, kind of 3/4 sidearm. That ball is going as fast as it could go, and he misses it wide left. For this lefty rep here, we kind of get our top hand too low and our bottom hand is too high. We need to kind of flip that. And on this particular rep, we kind of switch to a time and room shot out of on the run dodge. We want to be able to shoot on the run. We don't want to give ourselves a chance to be checked from behind. Okay, now here's some college footage from maybe 10 years or so ago. Now the caveat here, of course, is that this is a Division I middie. He's over 200 pounds. He grew up on Long Island. He's probably shot 10,000, 20,000 shots over the course of his lifetime, if not more in practice. And of course, we add in the game. The things to kind of look for again are that front shoulder getting right into his mouth. He's fully torqued up, and he follows through all the way into his right front pocket. It's a good example of taking that space that he's given on the dodge and then getting back downhill. We want to get back downhill when we shoot, whether we're going down the alley or whether sweeping across the top. You can see it from this angle. He's sweeping and he takes that one more step and get back towards the net. Right here, kind of turns that corner, and you can see the stick head finishes in his front right pocket. It's important to note that this player is a natural righty. You can see as a midfielder, critical to be able to shoot on the run overhand with both hands. Again, he sweeps for the middle, he gains the middle, and he takes that step kind of off his left foot to push himself back downhill. One hard move and go, steps back towards the middle, and we finish in our front right pocket. Another look at it. He's gained top side. See him start to veer back towards the goal, back towards goal line extended. Another look at this from going down the alley. Again, you can see him take that subtle little step back towards the net. So we talked earlier about having a plan as a shooter. This goalie is right-handed, so anything low into that off pipe is going to be a very challenging shot for him to save. You can see the shooter puts it right there in that corner, and we're more worried about the celebration and the goalie making a save. Again, this isn't a replay. This is another moment in the game. Pretty much a carbon copy. Races the goalie to a low and away location. We get our hands back, or torqued up. This is a good angle. See that follow through going all the way into that. Now again, this is a 200-plus pound midi, All-American, grew up on Long Island. He's using a lot more wrist strength. You can see there his hands aren't as high away from him, but because he's so strong, he's able to really snap that ball and drive that ball. We'd like our hands to be a little bit higher than he's using it as a younger players. Tom Schreiber, a more current player, he shoots it the same way. His hands are a little bit closer to his body than we'd like. Again, when you get much better, it's something that you can work on, and also a little bit byproduct of his pocket. We don't want to use pockets like that. Great view. That front shoulder is in his mouth. He's reached back, and the follow-through goes all the way to his front right pocket. Okay, so these two clips from Hopkins, Delaware, were the game prior to this game against Duke. Kind of get the idea that the Duke goalie had a scout. He had a plan in mind for how he wanted to defend Peyser. The shot ends up in a different way. There's also a little bit of a screen. So as we watch from this angle, you can see the off-ball movement from that low wing into the crease right there, that little flash. Prevents the goalie from getting a great read on the ball. And again, maybe he had noticed the scout from what Peyser was doing the game before, so he's kind of cheating that far pipe. The ball stays on the near pipe here. We can see that screen right in front of the goalie's face. And if he had just stayed still, it's really hard to do, to ask the goalie to do that. If he had just stayed still, it's stick side high, save, and the ball's going the other way. And then here's a final clip from the same game. Again, Peyser is a natural right-handed player. He sets up the defender with a little bit of a windup, and then you get that right to left split. He doesn't fade to the sideline. You'll see a great angle here as he catches the ball with a little bit of a windup, and they're getting back downhill. This time there's no screen. Peyser goes back to that low corner. You can just see by the goalie's body language, really couldn't pick up on the ball. That's a great sign as a shooter. Now, of course, you're not going to become a great on-the-run shooter overnight, but if you start to pay attention to these rules and watch some of this film, you will improve day by day.